Context for first aid. First aid. I'm in Canada. We're in Canada. We may be talking about some of legal things or things you can and can't do or should not do. Like we're dealing with consent, for example, in this first aid section. That may be different depending on what country you're in. So just keep in mind that some of the stuff will be specific to Canada. Generally speaking, when that stuff is more obvious to us and we think that applies, we'll say in videos, we're in Canada, by the way, or this applies to Canada, or we'll be referencing that in some way to help clue in that that might be a concern. There may also be notes or things throughout the video that indicate check for your own country just in case. Want to make sure that you're all covered there. I don't know everything about every law in every country. It's not practical to do that. So just keep in mind, make sure that you're legally protected in case any of this stuff is of a concern, but we'll get there. You'll understand when we get there. Something like bandaging an arm, a skill, that's going to be the same everywhere. Humans bleed the same way everywhere. You bandage pretty much the same way everywhere. I wouldn't worry too much about that stuff. Second thing, the goal here is to make sure that, or to try to help you guys be more comfortable with first aid, be more comfortable with these skills. A lot of people can't afford a first aid course. A lot of people might be apprehensive about a first aid course. They might, for whatever reason, it might not be available, whatever. The goal here is for you guys to have access to these skills in a way that is free so that, frankly, ideally, less people die. Like that's the big takeaway here of what we're trying to do. So this is going to be targeted towards people who, by and large, haven't had a first aid course before or who are looking for a quick refresher. If you're a first aid instructor or someone who writes first aid standards or something like that that's watching this course, keep in mind that this is being targeted towards lay people. It's being modified for YouTube and for social media. Some words will be different. The word casualty isn't, for example, isn't going to be used over and over and over and over again like it would traditionally be used. And this is being done for a reason. There may be times where certain skills are emphasized differently than you would do in a traditional course. That once again is to try to reinforce people through this sort of medium. So just keep in mind that things might be slightly different. Now, look, if you're a first aid instructor and you're watching this, I mean, I taught first aid for over 10 years. I did something similar to this when I first started. Steal, when someone has an idea of, the way that they demonstrate something and you really like it, take the parts that you find are useful and then, discard whatever you don't find useful. If you want to, for whatever reason, use parts of this video or the videos in this series or snippets of it or clips of it, which we'll be putting out in your courses, no problem, use them. There's not going to be any copyright issues. This is the disclaimer right now. If you want to use that for teaching, that's just fine. If you want to send us a thank you so that we know that we helped, great. But other than that, just go ahead. Don't have to worry about that. We're not going to claim anything on you for that. Okay. Just to re-emphasize, this is not a replacement for a first aid course. Just because you watch some YouTube videos doesn't mean you're certified in this. A critical part of being certified in teaching first aid is having a professional watch you do it and make sure that you're doing specific things correctly, because there are some very nuanced parts of doing first aid correctly. For example, in CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, the pressing down for the heart having a very big problem, there are some specific things that you probably want to be doing, which we'll talk about in the video, but just because you've heard it doesn't mean that you've necessarily internalized it and you're physically doing it correctly. And having someone who knows this, an instructor or whatever, there to see what you're doing and help course correct you so that you can learn by feeling is completely different from just watching a video. I'm going to try to be as descriptive as possible with this and try to show you some of the ways to and not to do some of these things that we commonly see. But just once again, this does not replace that, number one. Number two, in a lot of jurisdictions, this is true in Canada, being a licensed first aider is relevant in workplaces and in some other environments. And there are certain things that you're expected to do or not do based on having a license or not. You don't get a license mailed to you after you watch a YouTube video. So there are some limitations to this, and I'm going to try my best to give you as much information as you need where, look, if there's a family emergency, nobody's nearby, or if there's a life-threatening emergency in the family, no one's nearby, you have something. You have the skills. Maybe you didn't afford a course, maybe you weren't able to get the feedback, fair enough, but you have something here. That's pretty much it. Like, this doesn't replace a course. You're not magically certified here. It's important to note. Normally, in a first aid course, and this happens actually for a lot of instructors, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, if the instructor certifies you in something, and then you get involved in an emergency and something bad happens, there can be a question mark as to whether the instructor trained you right or not. And actually, there's like insurance that gets taken out. Instructors have a whole bunch of liability for if they sign off on you, whether or not you're legally good to go, basically. And they're saying that you're good to go. So instructors actually tend to take this one pretty seriously. But anyways, that's basically it. We're in Canada. This isn't going to replace a first aid course on its own. But the idea is hopefully it's very helpful. We'll try to make it fun.